Good evening. Hello, everyone. We are back again. So this time to look at what, the Western media presentation of the Dangote Refinery oil company. And yeah, we have seen a lot ever since Dangote came at that Afrexim Bank, or was it the Kigali conference? Since April, in any case, since April, he has put himself on the front row. He has, hinted. I'm sure he didn't tell us even, I don't know, maybe 5% or 10% of it, but it has caused a lot of row. And but I think for a good for good reason. I hope things will turn out good for him. So today we examine how this Western media is approaching the case of the Dangote's oil refinery company and its fate with the federal government of to selling him crude oil or not. Finally, they have decided to sell him in naira. But we will we will examine the mainstream media or the Western media approach towards this. So, Kwame, without further ado, welcome again.
Thank you very much, Mahlet, once again. And greetings to our viewers who are out there who are paying attention. As Mahlet has said, we are going to look at the Western media and how it has been reporting issues when it comes to the Dangote refinery. Because there's one way in which Africans actually report this, because we Africans, we have a lot of interest in the refinery. But then, when you go and examine the Western world, how they are reporting everything in regards to the refinery, I mean, it calls for suspicion whether they are collaborating with those who are tormenting, of course, Aliko Dangote. One thing is the Western world, the people who are supposedly tormenting Dangote, that is the international oil companies, never appear in their media platforms. I mean, this has been a cause for concern for us. If you go to platforms like Bloomberg, if you go to platforms like Reuters, if you go to platforms like BBC and all the others, whether it's CNBC, I mean, the issue of Dangote oil refinery never appears in there. If it appears in there, it never mentions really what the problem is. So this has been, I mean, a cause of concern, a cause for concern for us as Africans. And we say, let us analyze how Bloomberg, how Reuters, especially CNBC and others have been reporting issues which have to do with the Dangote oil refinery. And this is very important for us. So that is why we decided to, to come and have a look at, at this situation and the examination. So with that being said, Mahlet, back to you.
So, as you have said, this Western media did not have that much to say about the Dangote oil refinery, even given that its hugeness. And yeah, even when it was established around the time it was inaugurated, but we have seen them all out at this particular time with the headline. I think it was Reuters first who came up, and I think we gave a brief report about it. And I was telling the audience, watch now how other Western media will pick this and, go around. So the occasion was, accusing Dangote allegedly that he is reselling or the company is reselling the crude oil to other companies or refineries. So, can you go through how the Western media really has picked, and even from the pictures that they are trying to use or they have used when they published their article? Please walk us through that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mahlet. So this subject is really important, which has to do with how the Western media portrays Africa in itself. I remember, a few years ago, Kanye West came out on on TV, and he said that George Bush doesn't like black people. All right, and he added on to that, and he said that the media. I think there was some sort of hurricane or something in Chicago, and Kanye West said that when the black people come out and there is a problem or there's a hurricane like that, and they go out and they go to supermarkets, they say that they are looters because they don't have what to eat due to floods. All right. But if white people comes if white people come out, the media says that they are looking for what to eat. But if the black people come out, they say that they are thieves, they are looters, they are looting. So this is what Kanye West actually said. So it is very important for us as African people, and of course as black people, to reflect on this, because this has been going on for a long time. So when it comes to portraying Africans, we are portrayed negatively, or black people, whether it's in the United States or in the Caribbean. Whenever there is an issue, a misfortune, which has befallen us, there is a portrayal that those people are lazy, they don't want to work, and that is why they are like that. All right, our economies are like this because we don't want to work, or because we are lazy, or for some reason. All right, and then they will not really say what really is the issue. Is it really about laziness, or is it because these people are being exploited by imperialism and your own imperialistic corporations? So they don't want to mention these kind of things. So that is why it's very important that we look at the Western media and how it reports anything which has to do us. When there is anything which is like sort of success within the African countries, that is not reported in its entirety, or is not reported at all. Or if it is reported at all, they will pick some poor pictures, some very, very poor pictures, extremely poor pictures, or dirty pictures, which do not measure up to what has been achieved. All right. So this, we have noticed it to a very big extent. And is important also for us to understand that these media platforms like Bloomberg, Reuters, BBC, all these, the CNN, they are not doing it by accident. This is a deliberate effort. Even when you go to Nkrumah's book, Neocolonialism, the Last Stage of Imperialism, he mentions it, that this is a deliberate effort. He shows it to you that the media is being used against the interest of Africa. And the media working together with banks, for example, the International Monetary Fund, working together with the United States military, working together with the United States Department. So this is the very reason why Nkrumah said that capitalism is a very complicated system for newly independent African states to deal with it alone, because it is so complicated. So this is what actually Nkrumah meant. And he proposed for us is that we have to come together as a continent and act together and buy leverage. The coming together buys us leverage and it gives us bargaining power. But independent in our small states, if we separate ourselves from each other, then we do not have that leverage. We deny ourselves of the leverage, the bargaining power to which we can use to confront this capitalist system. Because the capitalist system, it has institutions built within it that if you want to confront them, then you have to be together as a unit. But if you are isolated in your smaller states, then you don't have that leverage, to confront it. So when you look at projects like the Dangote oil refinery, which is a huge achievement. It is a huge achievement simply because there has never been any investor, whether from the West, from the South, from anywhere across the world, whether it is governments or the Western world. There has never been any investor who has ever invested in Africa like Africans themselves. There's no single investor, whether it's in the Western world, because our heads of state are always going across the world. They're looking for investors. They're saying investors, they should come and invest in Africa. But there's never been a single investor who has invested in Africa like Dangote. There has never been a single investor who has ever put investment on the African continent, single investment. even if they are investors from the Western world, an investment as big as that which has been done by Dangote. So this is a cause for celebration. But when you look at the Western media and how they are presenting this project, you see, they look at it as a problem. And of course, we know that the project is a problem because an article came out, a few days ago and said that about 90 refineries in Europe face closure because of the Dangote oil refinery. So for us, our success to a very big extent has become like a problem to them. When we are successful, it becomes a problem. But when we are not successful and we are in problems and we have a problems, they say that we are lazy. Okay, we act in a certain way that we are lazy. Now I'll take you to Bloomberg, for example. Bloomberg published an article. Bloomberg published an article. Let me see. Uh, it published an article on 26th July. 26th July. So look at an article which was was published by Bloomberg, and this article says Dangote's refinery is reselling oil. Okay, is reselling some crude fuel. This is what officials are saying. Now Bloomberg copied this article from Reuters because the article was originally published by Reuters. All right, but then look at the article. Look at the picture which they are using. All right, they take a picture like which is not looking well. The place is dusty, and the pieces look like they are pieces of metal. This is a finished refinery which is already functioning. All right, they will not choose out the best. They will not choose out the best, from all the pictures which you can get on the internet. So that is one thing which is very important. And of course, I would want you to look at even the writers of the article, the so-called writers of the article, Anthony Osei, I think Osei Brown, and Bill Lane. So Bill Lane. So you can see that these people are not from Africa themselves. And it is unlikely that what they are talking about Africa, they don't even know it. It is unlikely that they know what they are talking about when it comes to the African continent. So that is number two. So this is a deliberate act of sabotage, because they were saying that Dangote refinery is reselling crude oil. All right, and I said that they were not the first to say this. The first who said it was Reuters who came up with that news at first. At first, it was Reuters who came up with this news, who said that Dangote is reselling, oil. Okay, who is reselling the fuel. Okay, so that is number one. Now, of course, Dangote came out later to bring clarity to the whole thing and say that he's not reselling any fuel, because the claim was Dangote is reselling crude oil. When we searched, when we at Connect Africa, we did a background check to see whether Dangote really was reselling fuel. It was surprising that on the day this news was published by Reuters that Dangote was reselling fuel, no local media platform had published any such news. No local media platform had published such news. Okay, that is what is surprising. And this news was published by Reuters at first. Okay, Reuters, as we said, is the one who first published this. I think yes. Let me share this, where Reuters was saying that they are, Dangote is reselling fuel, and later on I will show where Dangote said that they are not reselling any fuel. So I just want to show you the level of sabotage by the Western world. Okay, so for us, we suspected, this is Reuters. Reuters said that Dangote's refinery is reselling crude. This is the article, which of course Bloomberg and also CNBC, I think we saw that article in CNBC. CNBC also copied that article, where it copied it from Reuters. Okay. Now, this is also the picture which, Reuters used. when it was presenting this particular article. And we say the article appeared on the 27th
Kwame, by
July
the way,
of
the description at the bottom of that picture, what does it say? This old picture of Dangote.
Yes, so he's saying that this is a view of the mild hydrocracking unit at the Dangote oil, Dangote Petroleum Refinery in Lagos, Nigeria. So it was taken. He's saying that it was taken on July 20th, 2024. So that is what Reuters is using. But we saw that Bloomberg chose their own different, article which they in my picture which they used. Okay. Now let me go to Dangote, what he said after this. Let me go to Dangote, what he said after this news came out. So we just want to show you the level of hypocrisy as well as the sabotage that is within the Western world itself. Okay. So, and of course, we wanted to bring to your understanding so that you can understand who Reuters is. Reuters is a media platform, of course, which was formed way back in 1851. So you can see that 1851, it is a platform which has about 172 years. It was formed in Britain and it has been bought by Canadians right now. So you can see that when you do your background checking, this is a colonial platform. Reuters is a neo-colonial platform, all right, even today, that it is there to advance the interests of colonialism. That is what Reuters is about. Okay, so when our people are paying attention to these media platforms, this should be clear for you. You should understand this very well so that you are not swayed that everything which Reuters is publishing, okay, is gospel, and therefore you should come maybe and condemn your African government or what. But it is important. What we are trying to teach here is it is important to look at who is publishing the news. Himself as in the media house itself. Does it have credibility as a media platform? Now, number two, you also have to look at the people who are publishing that news. Okay, the people who are publishing that news, are they within that region? Are they within the African continent? If they are publishing news about our continent, are they within the African continent? If they are publishing news, about the Caribbean, whether it is Jamaica, whether it is Barbados, whether all these countries where the African people are, these anchors, or whether you reporters, whatever you may call them, or authors who have authored these articles, are they from within those regions they are publishing these articles about? That is very, very important. And of course, there's CNBC also, we can see it here. And of course, we said that Reuters is a platform which was started way back in colonial times in London, in the city, in the so-called city of London, where it still has its headquarters, even though it was bought by some Canadians. But it was started in 1851 in colonial times, when before Africa started, gotten, many countries across the world had gotten even their independence. So these were platforms which we are pumping out, colonial propaganda. If you look at it carefully. And CNBC is the same. You see that it was started in the United States. Okay, so these are the media platforms that are publishing, biased news about, our African continent. But let us see what Dangote said. So Dangote on the same day came out and said that our attention has been drawn to misleading report. This is Dangote. This is Dangote referred to misleading report suggesting that our refinery is crude distillation. Because remember, the Reuters claimed, the people who published that article originally claimed that Dangote's refinery, the crude distillation unit, which is the CDU, has issues, is damaged, and therefore Dangote is reselling, fuel. Okay, so what they wanted to do, what Reuters wanted to achieve, from my understanding, I will go back to the article which Reuters published. They wanted to paint a bad picture of the Dangote refinery because Dangote is fighting for crude oil. All right, and who has that crude oil? Is the Western corporations, is the Western multinational companies. and they have never spoken about those Western multinational companies like Shell, like ExxonMobil, from Chevron, ExxonMobil from the United States, Shell, Royal Dutch Shell from Britain, Total Energies from France, okay, Eni from Italy. So all these companies are the ones who are dominating the crude oil, industry in Nigeria. They are the ones who have taken over the resources of the country that the country cannot even take care of itself. And of course, we will not leave out the ruling class who is conniving with these companies. But they have never, in their articles, all the articles which they have published, they have never mentioned anywhere in the articles Chevron, or ExxonMobil, all these which are from the United States, and are the other ones which are controlling the oil in the country, the crude oil. They never mention them. They never mention about Shell. They never mention about Total Energies of France. All these companies are never mentioned, anywhere. So what they want to do is that they want to put them off the hook and implicate Dangote, you see, and say that Dangote is selling the crude oil, which means that it's not necessary even to give this guy crude oil. Okay. But in one article, sometimes they do even implicate themselves. They implicated themselves in that particular article where Reuters, I'll go and show you. They said that the act, the idea of refineries reselling crude is really not new. All right. It's really not new. It is done from time to time by refineries for certain reason. A refinery can buy crude, maybe he feels that this quality is lower, and decide to resell it. So this is what the article itself said. But it is important to understand the timing within which they published this particular article, and the fact that it was a false article. And that is why Dangote came out to refute itself. And he said that experiencing issues, our attention has been drawn to the misleading report. And of course, they did not mention Reuters, which, report suggesting that our refinery's crude distillation unit, which is the CDU, is experiencing issues that we are reselling crude oil. Okay. And that we are reselling crude oil because our distillation unit is experiencing issues. We categorically deny these claims. The Dangote refinery is not authorized to sell crude oil purchased from Nigeria. And our CDU, crude distillation unit, is fully operational and functioning optimally. We advise the public to disregard these false narratives. And we are talking about Reuters, Bloomberg, okay, CNBC. And these are the media platforms which I spoke to you about. And now, what I want to, to bring to the viewers' notice once again is that I want to take you back to Nkrumah's understanding of neocolonialism and how it works, because this is the best way for us to understand. Nkrumah, teaches us that the best way for us to win a struggle against, imperialism and neocolonialism is whenever it appears for us to expose it. All right. Now, this is the classical example of neocolonialism as you are seeing it right here. That you have a media platforms working together. One Reuters publishes a false news on a Pan-African project, in a project which is going to benefit Africa. All right. This is a project that's going to benefit Africa. Now they are trying to implicate it. Now, when Reuters publishes, one media platform in the imperialist West publishes, other media platforms copies that. They copy that and they republish it again. All right. Reuters publishes, CNBC republishes that same thing. Bloomberg republishes that same thing. All right. So this is the cartel that Dangote was talking about. He was saying that the mafias in the oil industry, they are stronger than the mafias, even the ones who are dealing in drugs. Okay, so this is how imperialism actually works. Now, the oil companies, they are never mentioned. These international oil companies, which Dangote was talking about, he's talking about Chevron, he's talking about ExxonMobil, he's talking about Shell, okay, he's talking about Total, he's talking about Eni of Italy. These are the companies that Dangote is talking about when he was talking about international oil companies. But these media platforms, these Western media platforms, they never mention those oil companies. Go and check all the news which was published by Reuters on this Dangote issue, this Dangote oil saga that is happening, in Nigeria. They have never mentioned those oil companies, whether it is Bloomberg or whether it is BBC. That they, even if they help you to write about it, they use bad pictures to depict Dangote's oil refinery, which is one of the biggest in the world. They use some of the worst pictures as you have seen with Bloomberg. Now, they try to minimize the importance of that refinery. So that is why you are saying that they were saying that the system is damaged, the refinery is damaged, and therefore Dangote came out to say that no, the refinery is not damaged. We advise the public to disregard these false narratives, which are likely driven by interests opposed to the local refining fuels, to the local refining of fuels. You see that Dangote, Dangote knows what is happening, but they did not mention Reuters. Dangote did not mention Reuters in this, but we know that the article came from Reuters. But he said that the people who are publishing these are driven by interests opposed to local refining of fuels. Okay, if you go back to, like I said, to Nkrumah's analysis of neocolonialism, he shows you that the media, the Western corporations, the IMF and World Bank, the United States military, the CIA, the FBI, all these work together. Okay, and Pentagon, the United States military, which is represented by Pentagon, and of course the United States Department, a United States Information Agency, which was merged and pushed into the United States, State Department, which is the current State Department. The United States, United States Information Agency was responsible for pumping out propaganda across the world, which favors the United States. All right. So that agency, which had at the peak of its operation in 1999, when it was disbanded and pushed into the United States Department, at the peak of its operation had over 10,000, employees, and they were responsible for pumping out books, books which are published by CIA money, which is pumped out, and they pump those books and push them, into the global south, and a lot of pamphlets and a lot of things which will make people admire the United States. And of course, that is, that is a topic for another day. But what I'm trying to show you is that it is a group of organizations that are working together for the impoverishment of Africa. And that is why, I repeat, and that is why Nkrumah said that capitalism is so complicated a system for newly independent African states to deal with it alone independently. It is so complicated because, and not complicated that we don't have the intelligence to deal with it, but simply because they have so much resources and they have established institutions which are working as an integrated unit, that for you to confront them as a small country, like for example, say Nigeria or Ghana or Togo, it is impossible because you don't have the resources to match those institutions which are working together to your impoverishment. So this is what we want to bring out. So this is Dangote when he was refuting that false narrative. Now let me go to an article, that article which was originally published by Reuters, and share it again so that I can show you where Reuters itself was saying that the reselling of fuel is really not an issue. Okay, is really not an issue. So, but for us, what worries us, this is the very article in which the original article in which Reuters claimed that Dangote's refinery is reselling crude, sources say. And you remember that Dangote said that disregard those sources. Those are people who don't want Africa to refine its resources, don't want local refining of resources. But again, look at the people who wrote this article. Remember when I was starting my presentation or my analysis, I said that always also look at the people who published the article. The people, do they belong in the region? The people who wrote this article, Ahmed Gada, Julia Payne, Libby George, all these people, they don't really belong in Africa. They are not even from Africa. Okay, these are people, these are external people, these are foreigners. They don't even know what is happening on the ground in Nigeria. So this is the other thing which is really disturbing. Okay, this is another thing that is disturbing. So these are the people who are publishing these news. Now you find that if they publish, for example, in Bloomberg, if it is an African, you will see that there will be an editor on his back, on the back of the African. Let me see, for example, Isaac Onyagu, you will see that they will be editing. All right, this is an example. Now here we have some African who wrote this article, Isaac Anyagu, and then there is editing by David Evans. All right, remember the editor is the one who allows that what is going to go out. Okay, so at the top here they will show you that is an African who wrote it. All right, they will show that is an African who wrote it, but when you go down and see, you will see that he cannot just write. The person cannot just write something and it goes through. It goes through editing and they eliminate what is not in the interest of imperialism. And this is the final man, David Evans, who will do the final article and publish it. All right. So to the original article, which I mentioned, there is where they say that such resales by refineries are quite rare, but not unknown, traders said. So they did not mention which traders said that. Crude prices added to an earlier decline after the news on Friday. So what I'm trying to point out is that the reselling of crude, and this is something which they mentioned at the bottom, lower at the bottom. The reselling of crude by refineries is not something that is unknown. Refineries do it more often. So there's no reason why Reuters would make a huge fuss about it, would make an issue, a huge issue, about the fact that Dangote was reselling crude, if it is his crude. But of course, we saw again that Dangote never resold any crude, and he mentioned that he's not allowed to resell crude, in any case. Now that is finished. That is a recent one. Now we want to go back to the past. We want also to go back to the past. On July 22nd, 2024, they published an article that Nigeria is investigating, and this is Reuters again. That Nigeria investigates fuel importers after Dangote refinery fuel rift with the regulator. All right. Now, to my understanding, the fitting heading, of course, I'm not the one who wrote it. It was after Dangote had found that the imported fuel was dirty. Okay. And they took samples. Dangote took samples even from Total, which is a French company. And that fuel, which was taken from Total, was some of the dirtiest. So this heading was that should have been that Nigeria investigates fuel imports after Dangote oil refinery finds that imported fuel is dirtier than Dangote's quality. I think that should have been the more befitting article. But maybe that is what this our brother David, Isaac Onyogu wrote, and probably they edited it for him, which is, at the end of the whole thing, you can see that David Evans edited the whole article. But let us go in here to examine some of the writing, how this article was written. So they said that Nigerian lawmakers on Monday set up, this is an article which was published on the July of 22nd, 2024. They said that Nigerian lawmakers on Monday set up a committee to investigate crude shortages to local refineries and importation of dirty fuels, issues at the heart of a rift between Dangote Refinery and Nigeria's downstream oil regulator. The committee, constituted of Nigeria's lower parliament, will investigate alleged importation of dirtier fuels, operations of substandard agencies, why refineries, including Dangote refineries, are unable to get adequate crude supplies and rising fuel queues. Our investigation, they are saying Reuters, they have an investigation. Our investigations, so no, they are saying, they are talking about, the House of Representatives. Our investigation will proceed to phases beginning with the allegation of production and importation of substandard petroleum products and unavailability of crude oil to domestic refineries. Of course, this is Dangote, who has been complaining that he doesn't get enough crude oil for him to run his refinery. Of course, which refinery, we know that it has the capacity of meeting the needs of of Nigeria, and even exporting to a greater part of the West African region. Okay, so the findings of the investigation, investigative panel, which does not have the power to act on them, will be presented to the parliament, from which recommendations will be made to the president. We have heard that President Tinubu has been quiet, and he knows what is going on. And of course, in one of our analysis, of course, we saw that President Tinubu is likely that he has interest, in the importation, in the groups that are importing the crude oil. And we saw the cousin to President Tinubu is part of that, and is attached to the Owando Petroleum, which is another, oil importing company, and is importing, of course, refined fuel, Owando Petroleum, also in the country. So they have interest. Tinubu himself, has interest. So the 20 billion Dangote oil refinery, built by Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, on the outskirts of Lagos, began operations in January, but has been unable to get adequate fuel supplies from Nigeria. Now, I want you to pay close attention to imperialism, how it works. So they are saying that Dangote's refinery, pay close attention to what I'm going to, to say here. They said that Dangote's refinery, which was built by Africa's richest man, richest man Aliko Dangote, on the outskirts of Lagos, began operations in January, of course, January 2024, but has been unable to get adequate crude supplies, crude oil from Nigeria. Where, look at what they are saying. Now, this is how they demonize the black people. So this is how they are presenting now the black people. Dangote, they are saying that Dangote has been unable to get adequate crude supplies from Nigeria, where vandalism, sabotage, and low investments deter production. This is what they are saying. So Dangote never said that he's not getting crude supplies because of vandalism and sabotage of crude of production, or low investment in production. So the problem in Nigeria is not a production problem. The problem is that the foreigners, ExxonMobil, which are not mentioned here, and these are the issues which Dangote mentioned, because the foreigners, these international oil companies, are taking the crude oil from Nigeria. Now, Reuters, in their hypocrisy, they don't mention who is taking the crude, Africa's crude, out of the country, out of the continent. They are saying that the reason why Dangote is not getting is vandalism, sabotage, and low investment. You see? So this is the problem. Now, this is the imperialism. So last month, the Dangote refinery oil, the Dangote refinery said all majors were blocking its access. Now, this is the real issue. All right? This is the real issue. Last month, Dangote refinery said oil majors were blocking its access to locally produced crude, and the regulator was allowing fuel traders to import high sulfur gas oil, thereby undermining its refinery. So you see, now when it comes to this paragraph, he's talking about they said, Dangote said that the oil majors were blocking his access to crude oil. So you ask yourself, if you very well know that it is the oil majors, which oil majors, they don't want to mention their names. They don't want to mention the name of ExxonMobil. They don't want to mention, Chevron. They don't want to mention Shell. They say oil majors. So if they knew that the oil majors are the ones who are blocking Dangote from having access to oil refinery, actually, this Reuters did not say that it is the oil majors which are blocking, but they are saying that Dangote Refinery said it is the oil majors. So Reuters, for it has already concluded that the reason why Dangote is not getting oil, the crude oil, is because of vandalism and sabotage and low investment in the Nigerian oil industry. And Dangote is saying that it is the majors, which of course Reuters doesn't want to mention. It doesn't want to mention them. They are the ones who are blocking his access to crude oil. So these are some of the things which we wanted to show our viewers so that they can understand how biased these media platforms are, in their reporting. That if you are to pay attention to them when it comes to reporting that has to do with the African continent or the affairs of the African people, I mean, you have to go slow in believing. If you want to get any news from them, you have to examine them. You have to examine it extensively, but more so, you have to proceed cautiously. You have to proceed extremely cautiously when it comes, to reading news from Reuters and all the other Western media platforms. So, with that being said, Mallet, I'll give you back the microphone.
Well, that was a very, very detailed analysis. I feel like there's nothing to question after this. But one thing, though, I mean, as far as the Western media is concerned, by the way, your assistant is here, our live audiences, Dejuma said, what was his name, the first name? Something Anyango. David Anyango, was it his name? The writer.
Yes, yes.
With the Western editor, right? So he said that he's a Nigerian writer for Business Daily Nigeria or Business Nigeria Daily, something like that.
Yes,
But this is
it's called David.
this kind of audiences really makes me happy, so because they are here and they are part of it as well. Now let's bring this one to our own media, the local media of Nigeria and also African media in general. So what we have seen is after those, chain very synchronized allegations against Aliko Dangote by the Western media, we have seen also, as you said, the local media of Nigeria copy pasting that. Just what we have been seeing in other parts of Africa. They're here within the continent. They can send, media like First Spot nowadays. They have their own representative in different parts in Africa, more than one. Okay, but our own, because we have seen this during the Ethiopia war, the northern region, how the media operate, because we have been fighting against the Western media monopoly and narration against the country. So we have seen how the Nigerian media was operating the South, even those big, the Kenyan, everyone was just copy pasting what the BBC and CNN say against Ethiopia. So the same thing when it comes to also for something that's happening in Nigeria, we haven't seen anyone making an effort to go and and investigate or interview. Actually, himself, Aliko Dangote, called the media and briefed at some point, but they were following with the headline, "Oh, Aliko Dangote denies the allegation. Dangote denies the allegation." This was the common first phrase all along that was picked by the local media. And same goes also for non-Nigerian African media. So what do you say, about our own? We cannot just continue every time pointing our fingers on Western media, because our own are not doing a good job. If we inform our own citizens well, we don't care about what the Western media says. Right now we care and we talk about them because our people and our own media are following and copying those media, right? So yeah, what's your view on that one?
Yeah. So
us doing our job.
yeah, so first of all, I think I would like to give a little bit of credit to the Nigerian media, even though I know you've bashed it already, because of that copying of saying Dangote, response to allegation and stuff like that. If they are there in the country, I think there is no need for them to write in such manner and say, oh, allegedly, the alleged, accusation which Dangote has made, when they know themselves they have been to the laboratory and he has tested, to say that Dangote has alleged that, the fuel is bad. That kind of language, of course, is unfortunate. But of course, you want to give them credit where credit is due, that they have been sort of steadfast in reporting on the Dangote oil refinery, because all of them, at least all of them, or majority of them, not all of them, but majority of them, know that this refinery that is not only important to Nigeria, but is very important to the rest of the African continent. And I think that this is something that the Nigerian media needs to intensify in reporting. Okay, this project is not just for Nigeria. This project, for those who are sabotaging it within Nigeria itself, are sabotaging the African continent. Actually, they are not just sabotaging Nigeria; they are sabotaging the African continent, as you see. Like we mentioned, if Dangote produces the aviation fuel, the rest of the African continent, the aviation fuel will go down, and the price of even the tickets could go down on the African continent, air tickets. All right. If he's able to supply all the aviation fuel, and he's not supplying, because he has been supplying aviation fuel actually to Europe, the first fuel which came
They could
out.
have turned it around all this
Yes,
narrative for positive, for
yes,
Dangote.
yes.
Yeah,
So
anyway.
that again is, it has to be the work of the Nigerian media itself. It has to stop being passive, and like you've been at the at the platform where Dangote has taken you to his laboratory. All of you people have seen his laboratory, and then you come out and say Dangote has alleged, has alleged that his laboratory is the best. You have seen it with your own eyes. So what do you, why do you turn around and write in such a way? So I think that the Nigerian media has to do a lot of work to fight against these, these cabals, which Dangote, of course, has already spoken about, these mafias in Nigeria, because the refinery, like I said, is for the interest of Nigeria, but more so is for the interest of the whole African continent. And on the other side, of course, I would like to see also our own private media platforms, our media platforms like Connect Africa and all the other Swahili Nation, whether you're talking about Africa Diaspora Channel, Sister Shanice, and all these talk about these projects, such projects as these. This is very important, because sometimes people don't even these days have time to go and switch on their TVs, because they have their cell phones. So they get these news. You can see that a lot of people now, they get their news on YouTube and on these African media platforms. So this is why it is very important that if you are watching Connect Africa, take the channel and share it with others, because this is the channel which has the interests of the whole continent, at heart. And that is why we are talking about these things. If you go out there, you will not find SABC of South Africa. You will not find anywhere any media platform across the African continent doing this analysis which we have done here, whereby we are pointing out that the Western media is being biased, against our interest as the African continent, because this is the interest. We saw that an article was published that this Dangote refinery could lead to the closure of over 90 refineries in Europe. Okay, and these refineries, actually, they even mentioned in that article which I read. If I have time, I will share it. That article said that uh, these refineries, they will need to upgrade their kit, their so-called kit, so that they will be able to produce high-grade fuel and send that fuel to the West, export that fuel to America or Canada. So which means it was an admission that they have been selling the bad fuel to us. And that bad fuel has been coming from Europe. Mostly the fuel that is being imported into the West African region and all the other African region, it is coming from Europe. So they have been selling bad fuel to us. Okay, so this refinery is a first class refinery which Dangote has built. And that is why even the Europeans are importing refined fuel from Dangote. That's why Dangote has been exporting to Europe the aviation fuel. Okay, so it is very important that we trumpet and put it up and speak about it. And that is why Dangote said that I have the support of the people. That is why it is very important. That is why it is very important for me to continue to fight on. I'm a fighter and I have the support of the people. So he knew that the people will support him because they are tired of incompetence, the incompetence of the ruling class. Okay, and of course that speaks also to the demonstrations which are happening in Nigeria, which started today. The demonstrations which started then, they are going to go on for the next say 10 days or 10, 11 days, which the demonstrators have said. So because the people are tired of this incompetence of the ruling class, therefore he knew that the people are behind him. So it is necessary for us also as media platforms, the private media platforms, alternative media platforms, to be behind Dangote and support him, in his struggle. So it starts with you here who's watching, Connect Africa, share whatever you are seeing on this platform, invite others to be part of this platform, so that we can spread the good information out there. I mean, we will be able to win as we continue to expose imperialism, and it's working against the interests of the African people. Remember, what we spoke about here is not only for the Africans on the continent, but also the Africans in the diaspora. Because we have spoken about how biased these media platforms. We spoke about Kanye West here, how we say that the Western media is biased against the Africans in the United States, or the black people in the United States, the African Americans, whereby if something small happens on the side of the blacks in the United States, they say he was a thief, he was shot. Like George Floyd, they said he was shot, that he was drunk. They said he had taken drugs, he had drugs in the pocket. So they are justifying the killing of the man by saying that he had drugs in the pocket. Okay, so this is what happened to black people. So this is what we are addressing. So we may be talking about Dangote's refinery, but rather more so we are addressing the larger neo-colonial question, the colonial question of these institutions. And surprisingly, these institutions, they continue like this, to be biased against Africans, and they are never stopped. Their politicians never stop them. So this is what tells you that they are working together against the interests of the Africans. So we have African presidents, we have these institutions, they have countries where they come from. BBC has a country where it comes from. So why do they continue to publish fake news and biased news against Africa if they have their own leaders in their country? Why don't these leaders, if they are sensible enough, because Africans have been complaining that the West is biased, the Western media is biased against us, why don't these Western leaders who are so democratic and so human, they say that they are for human rights, why don't they go out there and speak to their media platforms and tell them that, look, you are biased towards these people, you need to stop biased towards these people, you are violating their human rights when you abuse them in the media, when you report false news about them. But they never do this. So what we are talking about, even though we are talking about the refinery, we are really talking about the larger African people, and the larger global African population. So thank you very much, Mahlet. Back to you. I think that the alternative medias like this have a lot of work to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kwame. So I leave it at that, just to show you one example, how, for example, like I think it was 5 days ago or 6 days ago, we came and reported when this Western media started literally attack Dangote. And I mean, it's simply to call a spade a spade. That's it. While instead of, oh, Aliko Dangote denies this and that, allegedly accused of this and that, how we reported it here is, this is like the thumbnail: Western media attacks Dangote, and the title of the video is Dangote rejects Western media, what is that, neo-colonial false propaganda or whatever. It's to own our own narratives. That is one example. This is how they present us. I mean, earlier we did a report on Mali, that Ukraine and Russia importing their war to Mali. And I mean, this happening in various parts of the continent, but just a, an existing example. So what's happening is it's a proxy war, right? It's to call what it is, to give it the name as it is. There's no going around the bush. uh, there's no diplomacy in here. That's exactly how, at the end of the day, the war in Mali will be presented by the Western media: Africans killing each other. This is what they teach them, their children. This is what they reported at school. This is how they reported to their nation who's watching the national television. So we also have to do this. They are attacking Africa. They are attacking this man because he's going to bring a lot of change in the continent, and also it's going to kill their refinery. He has set the bar so high. As a matter of fact, we want Dangote just to cover the market in Africa, including the aviation one. I really want Ethiopian Airlines, instead of buying it from Total or Shell, whatever, from wherever they're buying it, to buy it from Dangote, that much to be, of course, but there is an issue of pipeline, this and that. But if Dangote covers, I think, Africa, it's enough. It's more than enough. Imagine a market of, a population more than 1.4 billion only in Africa, and the West just supply yourself, and we all, it was a win-win. But of course they want everything. It's a monopoly. So they wouldn't leave us alone. But we have to be also conscious, even in this little media, let alone national medias and broadcasting services, how we report things. It all starts from the headline. So we just wanted to shed some light with regards to this Western media approach towards Dangote, but at large towards what's happening in Africa. Thanks again all for tuning in. We thought it's just a half an hour thing, but again, it took an hour, but not for nothing. We learned a lot of things. So Child of God, Dejuma Booting, Osie, Yoruba land. We have Going Home to Mount Zion. These are all the way from Caribbean. There's Lion Rules the Jungle Without Fear. They all say thank you for Kwame for bringing this up and for shedding light on the subject. So they're also is saying the saboteurs don't care if they are sabotaging Africa or the world. They can only think of immediate monetary rewards. This is directed to your our reflection on the African media. Think of it this way. Constructive economics says every company must have a competitive advantage. However, Western countries do not have the minerals and resources indigenous to Africa, so they bring their companies. Yeah, okay. Yeah. What did Yorubaland say? Let me see. Kwame and Mahlet need to bring our agenda, not just complain about others are working on their, just an idea. Well, that's why we have brought also the issue of how our own media are operating, if that's what you mean, like talking about the Western media. Yeah, so let's call it an evening or a day, and that was it for us, from us to you, and we will see you on the next one again. Tomorrow will be Kwame will be here with us. For me, that was it. Unless you have some concluding or final words, Kwame.
Thank you, Mahlet, and thank you everyone who has been part of this journey. Continue to be part of this and support the channel, support Connect Africa. We are building a media platform, and we expect that you will be part of that, journey that we are taking so that we can have a new narrative across the African continent. A lot of other people are doing this job, and we need to also make our contribution towards the continent. So support the channel and invite other people. Share the videos. Go out and look at the previous videos which we have done. We have done a lot of videos, where we spoke about the African media in the past. We have spoken about the third industrial revolution. We have spoken about the IMF, the video which we have just done. We've spoken about the IMF and the International Monetary Fund in Ethiopia. There's a lot of things to learn in that video. I think about a week ago, we did another video on the International Monetary Fund. So you need to look out for that video. We have done a video on not only Western institutions, but we have also done a video on the fourth industrial revolution, the so-called the fourth and third industrial revolution. We have a lot of important, very, very important video, which even will stand the test of time. So go out there and support the channel, invite others to come and, and take some of this knowledge, and let's learn from it and be able to build a new Africa, the Africa we want or we deserve. The Africa we deserve, not the Africa we want, but the Africa we deserve, and the one we need, actually. Thank you so much, and have a good night, good day, everyone, depending on where you are.
Yeah, ciao, ciao, and thanks for me. Bye.